Hey Soul Tribe, it's Kate and Kerry.
We are so excited to have you hear this new episode. Please review and subscribe at the end. It's free and it helps us keep spreading our message to you, our awesome listener. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Soulsessed Twins. I am Kerry, your host in California.
What's up, guys? It's Kate in New York.
And we're super excited to do this episode. It is really about sticking with goals that you have set. And how do you do that?
Yeah, because I can even just speak for Kerry and I having this major transition and a new job, a new goal, right, put in front of us, and have been doing this podcast for the last year. How we're finding our little stumbling blocks along the way of how to continue to stick with it when now it's just not a podcast, it's also the other stuff that you don't like so much, right? And like, how do you stick with the whole shebang?
Yeah, exactly. And I really we listened to this podcast the other day, and DOAC. Kate, do you want to say who that is actually?
Yeah, so DOAC is Diary of a CEO. That's the podcast that we were listening to, and episode 126 was how to master the consistency of achieving your goals and sticking to them. And he had on the episode this behavioral design and productivity expert, Nir Eyal. And we just stumbled across it and we're like, is this guy like recording us secretly somewhere? Because it spoke to us so much. And that podcast in general is fantastic. The guy, what is his name? Stephen Bartlett. He's awesome. That's a good one to check out. But anyway, for this episode, he has this guy on, Nir Eyal, and goes over why do we stop? Why do we, when we have a dream, when we have a goal, where do we fall short? Why do we do that? Because all of us do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I really liked that he simply pointed out the only reason we fail at our goals is because we don't feel like it. We quit and don't follow through.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't feel like doing it. And you go with that rather than like, right, but I'm committed to doing this. It doesn't matter how I feel. And this is why. So that was the part where it was like, well, how do you stick to something when you don't feel like doing it? And for me, like the podcast, it's a lot of work, and Kate and I continuing to do it basically day in and day out. I mean, we're constantly discussing everything and having to research and put it all together and then record. So it's not just recording that we're doing. We're really working on this all the time. And how do we do that? Well, sometimes when I'm like, I don't want to do this, what happens is I connect to my why. So it's like, but I want to. And that really is it. Like you have to want to do it and then know why you want to. And why for me is because it means so much to me and I want to help people and be with Kate.
Right. I loved how he was talking about the stuff that we as like a people, as humans get stuck on is, say, we in general, for example, we have this podcast, but when you're starting to then go to the next level or want to go to the next level, and now it's not only about the podcast, but it's about marketing, and maybe there's advertisers along the way, and maybe there's a workbook or a worksheet to now we have to work on, and the things that encompass the whole company, the whole business. I don't love all of it. So that's where the whole, like, I love the podcast. I love working with Kerry. I love talking with you guys and helping you guys, but I don't love the marketing aspect of it. I don't love having to build this workshop of sorts of what we want to do. And that's what he's talking about, is like, the I don't feel like it, that I quit happens because we don't like that part of it.
Exactly. Oh my God. Exactly. And I really liked his example was he was DJing, right? And he's been doing it for fun. And the second he's, now getting booked for gigs, and it's business. It's become now like a work job thing. And the neuro guy that was talking to him was like, well, now it's stuff that you don't really enjoy doing, which is the business side of things.
Right.
And so that's why you need your connection to like, well, why are you doing this? So that you can push through the stuff that you don't like to do.
Right, exactly. And he does it, he puts it so simply. If you just look at, he puts it into three categories, three life domains. And the center of them all is the you domain, which I thought was so true, because without caring for ourselves first, without putting ourselves first, there is no 2 and 3 domain. There's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So looking at that and what you want to do for yourself, putting time that you want to spend on yourself. How much time is that? What is that? And thinking about, I loved how he did it too, is that thinking about who it is you want to become.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. He's like, when it becomes hard, you have to have more than, because you're disciplined on something when you like it, right? It's like, okay, he's like, I go to the gym 6 times a week, right? And he's like, well, you like to be fit, basically, or, work out. And the goal means a lot. The goal has to mean a lot to you. But when it gets hard, you need to figure out the values of the person that you want to be in this whole thing,
Mhm.
and connect to it over and over again in order to push through. And I loved that. And I also really liked him pointing out that, yeah, you have to schedule everything. Everything has to be scheduled. Like, it's not like your loved ones or your spouse or your friends just get the leftovers, right? Because it's stressful. So you want to say, like, well, this person's important to me. I want to schedule them at 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock, right? And myself is important to me. So I'm putting me time in there for whatever that is, right? And I really love too, we had the two things of why an a to-do list is like, it's not so encouraging and motivating because it's all output stuff and there's no constraints on it. So when we're not getting any input, which is filling yourself up, which is why you need to have you time and me time and a reflective time, then it's not so motivating.
Right, exactly. So the first domain is you, right? And figuring out how much time, what do you need to make sure that you're fully taking care of yourself so that we can go to the next step. And that next step, that second domain, is our relationships. And yeah, talking about that's why there is such a loneliness epidemic going on. There's no question about it. I definitely think even, before COVID, it was already people felt lonely. But once COVID came and we were put indoors, and really that's socializing, not social media, one on like touch, like eyeball to eyeball in our physical presence, really depleted. Like nobody was really doing that. And that level of loneliness is at a level we've never seen before, right? Look at the suicide rate too, like all of that, because then depression gets even worse and we all feel alone in some degree more than we ever have. And so this second domain is about putting your relationships in your calendar So it's there, it's in a specific block of time so that we are going out and purposely and intentionally going and meeting with the people, our loved ones that we want to be with, and how important that is for us. It is, we know it is, that like ache. And why? It's because we're saying that we don't have enough time, and we do have enough time. We have to use the calendar.
Or time blocks. If you haven't heard of what time blocking is, it's so helpful. And I'm actually just, this podcast is reminding me like to get back to that, because it creates such less anxiety in your entire day to just have everything scheduled out. And I'm guilty of not having that, all together a lot, but it like really helps. So I'm like, oh, right, reminding on that. And the point about, right, with the social media is that it's faux connection. So everyone thinks like, oh, I'm on social, but you're not social. It's not real social that we need, that's healthy and helping us and makes us feel connected. It leaves us feeling lonely and depressed, like Kate was saying. And the point that I wanted to finish on with the to-do list is it's all output to where you come home and you see this whole list and all you're looking at are the things you didn't get done. And it's like exhausting of like, oh, I still have this to do and that to do. And so to make it more of things that, well, I don't remember what that point was, but that was something that it shouldn't just be a to-do list. It needs to be things that are scheduled and meaningful.
Yeah, especially too, like in our era, like the generation before us and before that made time for these more intentional gatherings, right? There was so much more effort to go to church, to go to some type of timed gathering that you knew you were going to, one at least weekly, if not daily, and you were going to be in person meeting with whoever you were meeting with. And we've lost so much of that. So this way gets us back to intentionally meeting with the people that we really want to be with. It has to be in, because like Kerry said before, we always then just fall to the wayside. Everybody that we love and everybody that loves us, like we're getting the scraps of that. And so the intention to put them in, not just at the end of the day, but during your day, to put these relationships into our schedule is how we become our ultimate self. It's how we are going to achieve our goals.
Right. Because it also, you're putting things in there that fill you up. That's not just like energy out. You're also nourishing yourself with relationships that matter to you. And I really loved that the point, like the meat and potatoes behind this idea is like everyone is always cheap with money and generous with time. And he said it really should be turned around. Be generous with money. You can always make more. You can never make more time. Time is a commodity that you cannot create. It is what it is. So use it wisely. And it was like, oh my God, it's so true, right?
Yeah, and that's the third domain, is then the work domain, and how he points out that the work domain should be the last domain. It should not be the first. And so many of us have that backwards. And there's two ways of working, and we all do it, which is the reactive work and the reflective work. And all of our jobs require the reactive work. We're always just picking up our phone, responding to emails, just answering somebody that's coming to us. It's always a reaction to what our day is bringing us, which is totally normal. But
And
he's
output.
yeah. But what he's saying is we have to make sure that we are putting time in for reflective work as well, especially if you are looking to do something that's creative, that requires time to think and step out of the box. He said it's so important to put time in to just think, to put that focus in, even if it's just 15 to 20 minutes a day into your schedule, put it in there, because that's the only way that we're going to achieve our goals, is because we need that time to think on it.
Yeah, to digest everything, reassess, bring in new ideas, all that stuff. So, I mean, I definitely 15, 20 minutes. I spend most of my day in reflective mode. Probably too much as a Libra. Don't overthink. Just think a little. Relax. It's supposed to feel good.
And so, you're also thinking about what do I do to achieve my goals? Like, and that'll determine how much time you want to put into it, is based on your values, right? Is then based on the kind of person that you want to become. So again, like, well, how much time would the person that I'm aiming to be, who I want to become, how much time would they spend? Just look at the 7 days in your calendar. We're not looking at the year. We're not looking at the first 3 or 6 months. We're just looking at the week. We're looking at the 7 days, clean shot. And what does the person that I want to be, how much time do they allot for these 3 domains, and put it in there. And that's how you're going to achieve it.
Yep, exactly. So we loved it. We thought it was super helpful. And, I mean, how do you feel? I feel like we just really wanted to do a sort of 1-2 punch on keep going and how to keep going, and what we still look for things to help us. So we found this and thought it was super helpful and wanted to bring it to you.
Yeah. And I loved it because it was so informative. Answered a question of mine, like, why don't I feel like it? Why do I pull at stuff? And I know it's stuff that I don't like to do, but we also know when, we're grown adults, and I'm, 47 years old, I also know that stuff that you love to do also requires stuff you don't want to do. But it doesn't matter. That's just like the human element of it, of like, we don't like what we don't like. And we're going to just say, I don't feel like doing it. But when I understand that, it's going to help me push through. And now think about, like, well, what would the person I want to become, how would they handle this? What would they say to this? And I love the little shrink of time. Let's not like overwhelm ourselves of saying, like, you need 4 hours a day, and no water breaks, no pee breaks, like make it tangible, make it something that you can swallow, and little by slowly, like, we will become these people that we want to become.
Or achieve the goals that we want to achieve. Because also too, I don't feel like doing it. Instead of throwing in the towel, I'm like, I don't want to. Why? Right? Be curious. What's going on? Maybe something needs to be refined, reassessed, fine-tuned. So it's always like signals and communication to you, rather than, yeah, fuck it. It's done. I'm over. I'm out. Peace.
Right. All right, guys, that's what we got this week. We love hearing from you. Please tune in to Instagram and continue to reach out. Messages, topics, suggestions, anything that you got, keep throwing it at us. We adore you and can't do it without you.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Get Soulsessed.
Stay tuned, guys. We are thrilled to be here with each other, and feel so privileged to try and carry a message of hope and positive change to one other person out there. So please subscribe and review and share our podcast to reach that person. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Soulsessed Twins, and get daily inspo and connect with us.
Let's build this community together.
100%. So come back next week and we'll see you then.
Get Soulsessed with us, Soul Tribe.
That's it. Bye, guys.